Today I'm going to show a method to find better in-between poses. And I have some 4 poses here where our character is idling, and then he goes into squash pose, stretches out, and then there's an in-air pose where he's up in the air, where he's reaching out for his weapon. And from here he can just throw that weapon, this little grenade here, in air. And as you can see, I'm in step mode and my poses are pretty clear. They're pretty graphic, like they're graphically shaped. You can tell them, if I hit 7, I can kind of see like what's happening from a distance. They're pretty clear. If I flip through them, I can see the story. But the problem with step animation is it's hard to see the timing. And today I'm just going to talk about an easier way that I found where you can get better in-betweens. And I'm going to bring up my tween machine tool. You can use any tween machine tool. I'm going to use the basic rig script one. Where is it? This little button here. All right. So let's start working from 0 to 12. Let's figure out a way where we can find our in-betweens. So I'm going to select the whole character, and I'm looking at this. It's going from this to this pose. And this is a good practice where you can just get 2 step poses, especially if you're not working with reference and you're just like coming up with poses, something like more dynamic like this where you cannot find reference. This is a good idea, like where you can just have 2 key poses and try to find ways to transition in between those poses in a more creative way. So let's go to frame 6. I'm going to go right in the middle and show you guys what most animators do, which makes the animation boring, okay? So let's look at here, this guy. I'm going to mark his head here on frame 0, pose 0, and let's go to 12, and let's mark his head again there. So if I do a regular in-between that Maya gives me, right in the middle, it's going to be very boring. That dot will literally it will try to go in a linear way down here. And we want to make this more interesting, right? Let's just first do the demo here. So I'm going to select everything. Let's just do like 50%. So it's kind of off a little bit, but I want a more creative way from going A to B. Like, how can I get more creative here by, breaking that arc a little bit? So maybe I can do something like that. And then he can dip and go up, right? So let's also think about like where I want to ease out from A, and maybe I want to ease into B. Like I can even plan these on top of the arc that I just created. So let's make this actually bigger. Let me delete that. So here was pose A, and here is pose B, literally the end pose going into that anticipation. And let's define a better arc here. Maybe he can go this way, like that, right? So I drew my arc, so I kind of know like in between, his nose can end up here, his head can end up somewhere here, and I can pose out my character that way. So I'm gonna put more dots here, and just like the old school timing charts, I'm gonna define if I want to ease out of that pose and like how much I want to ease into it. So I know he's going to hold that pose a little bit longer there. So let's put one closer to that pose. Let me use this one. One here. That's the end pose. Maybe he can, let's see. Let's put one here so he eases out of that, right? So 1, 2 poses, and let's define that arc better. Let's put one here or somewhere right in the middle there. So with tween machine, I'm just going to get a go 1, 2, 3 frames later, all of my characters selected, and I'm just going to drag this left and right to a better position where his head is landing right around that yellow dot, the first one, right? And then I'm going to use translation. I just don't want like a random select the whole character and then just get a 25% ease out of that. I want to like shape that. So I'm going to bring his hips back a little bit. Maybe I can rotate him. Not that one. Let's rotate his body this way. So you kind of see like I'm defining that arc. All right, I kind of like hunching over the chest. So when I'm doing these in-betweens as well, I'm leading with something. So notice how I led with the chest there, and I brought his hips back to compensate a little bit. And I'm going to use the tail as well to make himself balanced there. Let's look at it from this angle. So that's my pose where he's like kind of easing out, and I flip through it. Let's go back to this one. And let's work on the hands. Literally the hands in our IK. So the hands will literally go, let's do another color here. Hand, and the hand goes up there. What can I do here? Let's bring this down. So it will dip down and then go back up. All right, let's go to the other one here. Let's go to this pose. And this one will favor that last pose a lot. So I'm going to even bring it closer, but also define the arc on it. So let's select the whole character. And let's go 1, 2, 3 frames back here. You don't have to work always like straight ahead. You can get a pose and you can work backwards out of that pose as well if you cannot figure it out. So let's favor this one. This is going to be favoring a lot. So I'm going to do 90%, and let's pull them back a little bit more. Now let's go somewhere in the middle here. Let's get that middle point. Select all. Let's just drag it left and right. It's better if you have a tween machine that kind of like gives you real-time feedback. So right there, I'm going to start. That's my starting point, and I'm just going to break that arc. So the arms are literally going like literally in a way that is linear, and I can break down those arcs a little bit more. So one thing you can do is sometimes I like to just overshoot to break things down. So notice that arc there. Let me bring up an arc tracker on it. Where is this? There it is. So before it was doing something like that. And sometimes to break down the motion, I just do an overshoot, tiny overshoot. Let's bring this down here so it snaps up. Maybe here's better. Okay. So instead of drawing, I just use a motion arc tracker to get that arc. Maybe that overshoot is too much. Just going to tone it down a little bit. But it still overshoots. And I can even add a little bit more rotation there. Not there. Here. All right. Same thing goes for this. Notice how this one is literally going in a linear way because I just used default with whatever Maya gave me. So I'm going to put an arc tracker on this one as well. So notice how it's linear. Think about it like this, right? Linear is boring. So you want to get more in a more creative way. So maybe we can dip him down. So I'm going to go down here. Let's dip it down, overshoot him again, and then he hits that last pose. Let's not overshoot it. Let's do something like that. More simple arc. But this is more interesting than that linear one that I had before, right? So it's a good practice. Just have 2 in-betweens, 2 poses, and then you just, okay, so let's look at different body parts, see if we can get some better arcs. Some animators, they like to put a locator on the tip of the nose, and they just follow that, right? But let's take a look at it, whatever arc we have here on the head. It's going to be very similar to this one, I guess. You can kind of see it's almost one-to-one with that one that I drew. And you can literally also create some objects like boxes and just place them wherever you want, just like this drawing here, this one. And you can just put those boxes there so you have more control. You can look at it from different angles, right? So for the tail, I'm not going to focus on the tail now because I'll probably do some overlap later with aim constraints. But notice how I always think about it like this, right? This is boring. This is a robot, basically. But what we did was we had pose A, pose B, a whole pose, and I kind of marked it out. So instead of going linearly pose A to pose B, try to find more creative ways to get there. So maybe it can be like this, or it can even be like that, right? And after that, defining the arc, I literally marked the key poses, right? Here it's gonna slow down. Here will speed up. Maybe you can slow down here, and then here it can speed up and hit that pose. And you can mark this on your screen. And the tool that I'm using is Epic Pen, not EB Labs. Take that back. Let me actually delete the whole thing. So let's move on to the other pose. So I got from here to here in a more creative way. That's the only thing I think about. Like, I got there in a more creative way. And again, I need to move the feet a little bit. All right. So let's work on this part. From 12 to 21, let's get there in a more creative way. From here to here, 12. Let's mark his head right there. Let's go to 21. Let's mark his head here as well. This one is going to be more like linearly, I think. But let's just change it a tiny bit. Let's just give him a dip there, and then he can go up. So we're not going to go straight up like that. We're going to go in a more creative way. So let's do something like that. And then here he can go to the apex. So I'm going to follow that arc, and I want to go into that pose pretty fast because I know he's going to continue his momentum, right? So let's give him a pose right there. And then let's give him a pose right there. And then this will be the biggest spacing. So he pops up into that pose. So I need two poses here, right? This is 12. This is 21. I need two poses there. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. This will be 14. 1, 2, 3. This will be 17. Okay? All right. It's like the whole character. 1, 2, 3. Sorry, 15. 15 is better. All right, let's drag this left and right. Let's get his head around that position right there. So to move his head, I'm just going to move the whole body there. Try to bring his head right onto that dot. You kind of feel the dip there, right? And let's find something to lead with. Maybe I can lead with the body there, the chest a little bit more. And let's make him look where he's going. So I'm leading with that head a little bit. Let's grab his tail. 3, 4, 5. I want to make that tail sharper. So I'm going to favor to 21. All right. Now we're going to go to 18. 1, 2, 3. And 18 is going to be around here. I kind of know it. So select the whole character, set a key. Let's just drag this left and right to get our tween machine right there. So now I'm going to push him more this way. He can go up. Let's lead with the head. And I try to keep in the blocking stage, I try to keep everything on, like 3s, 4s, 2s. 3s is a good number, I found, when I'm doing like this kind of animation. And later on, I can just move these keys around if I want something to be a little bit slower. And we can do that later. So, all right. So we kind of did that. And he will snap into that pose. Now let's work on these ones. Let's favor that foot back to 12. Just a little bit of movement. All right, that's good. Cool. If you look at the hands are an IK. So from 12 to 21, it's going to go pretty linearly into this pose. And let's just confirm that. Mount Rage, that's the motion trail, the new motion trail that Basic Over Rig script has. See that? If you look at this, pretty boring. We can make that more interesting. That's more interesting. And the spacing kind of matches what I had before. I'm snapping into that last pose. Only 2 poses, but I'm kind of defining the whole thing manually. Again, this is what I was talking about. Boring. The spacing is there, but the arc is pretty boring. And I got to give credit to Keith Lango for this. I learned this from him many years ago when he had those tutorials. It was like really hard to buy for me. It was like 18 euros for one lecture. Now it's free on YouTube. And he was talking about like, going from pose to pose, what you should pay attention to. All right. And Phoenix, this is exactly what you were kind of like talking about. If you don't have any reference, right? This stuff is really good for that. if you're doing something if you don't have any reference, you can first mark out your key poses, these very graphic poses, and then you can work your ways backwards, or like just like a puzzle, you just fill in the in-betweens to make the animation more interesting. I didn't use any reference for this, but all right, so let's go from 21 to 30. Let's bring up our drawing here. So 21, we're gonna go to 30, and I'm just gonna delete those motion trails. And let's map out our arc first on the screen. And you can even draw on your screen too. You can just put a sheet on top of it, and then you can just use a marker to just track your arcs. I know some old school animators, they used to do this. So I know the arc is coming from here. We kind of dipped down. If I just get a normal in between, if Maya gives me, it will give me a straight arc there. But I want something more interesting, so I'm gonna go like that, right? Because he just came from here, and I think it was somewhere around here. Now let's mark out our spacing. I don't want something like this, because if I do something like that, he's gonna slow down, right? So instead of working from that pose, I'm gonna work backwards. And this is a good way to work in your animation too. You can work backwards. You don't always have to work this way with your poses. All right, so I'm gonna go here. I wanna hold that pose. So that's gonna favor this one. And I'm gonna put another one maybe here. And another one like right in the middle there. So let's select the whole character. So how many poses do I have? 1, 2, 3 poses. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I'm just gonna drag this out 3 more frames, and I'm just gonna go work backwards here. 1, 2, 3. Let's bring that guy, his head, right there, and then I'm gonna grab all of these, drag them up like that. See that? You can feel the hang time now. It's kind of freezing there. All right, let's do something different here. Let's work backwards again, and let's get this pose here. 1, 2, 3. All right. Work backwards. 1, 2, 3. And these are just placeholders. I'm just trying to keep everything on 3s. Let's do this. Let's put somewhere. That's good. That's better. And let's get this last pose here. So I'm going to work forward from here. Let's go 1, 2, 3. Actually, I'm going to bring these back here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Sorry. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So I'm going to get that pose right there. Perfect. I'm going to push it a little bit this way, and let's get that head right on that arc, right? So I'm freezing in the air there, and that was something intentional that I wanted. I wanted to ease into that last pose, because like this pose, I'm really going to sell where he's reaching out for his weapon. I just need to fix some of these poses. That's better. Let's keep this until 40. Let's make that so it comes up here. And I just need to, like, whenever I get these in-betweens, I still need to tweak those poses and stepped. But I got my rough placement using Tween Machine with that method. So that was the lecture. Let me pause it. Actually, let's keep going. Let's turn this into splines, and I'll check the questions. All right, let's go into splining this. And even though, like, I kind of broke things down, it still feels very pose to pose to me. And I want to break things down using the animation layers and space switching stuff. All right, I'm gonna grab everything. Let's set our keys to auto tangents, auto ease, auto ease. Right click on the timeline, tangents. Let's go to auto. Now the timing is, super slow. And I have a hotkey, so it's Control minus will remove a key from the timeline, and then Control plus will add a key to it. So let's go here a little bit faster. Let's add a key there. Let's pop him up faster. That's better. I kind of like the hang time there, so I'm gonna keep that. Let's Still feels very pose to pose, but let's start polishing this up a little bit more, and let's just start getting messy. So I'm going to start with the hips here, and going to turn on the graph editor, open up the graph editor, and if you have snap key on, I'm just going to turn this off so I can have more control over my curves. I usually start with the Y curve, and I'm just going to clean up this curve a little bit, and I'm using weighted tangents. So he's kind of dying here, so I'm going to clean this up a little bit, maybe delete that. Let's get rid of that, and let's get rid of that. I don't want dead curves like that, so I'm just going to bring it down a tiny bit. And with these forward curves, when he's in air, I always try to make sure when he's traveling forward, my curve is, so when he jumps up here, I'm going to make that linear there. Sorry guys, 1 second. All right, so here he's kind of slowing down in air. I'm going to ease that a little bit so he doesn't so slow down in air like that. Side to side motion, let's just ignore that for now. He's pretty much going straight forward up. Let me show you guys how to like break down the body a little bit more, right? So things are moving at different speeds, and we'll probably use basic override scripts for that. So there are a couple ways to get rid of that supposed feel in your animation. After doing the hips, what I like to do is just, I don't really go to the graph editor after that. I just use space switching, or I use animation layers. So I'm going to look at the chest as a bouncing ball. Right now he has an IK chest, and I like to do some passes where I set a key pose here. Before we had 0 to 12, I think. And I add some more motion using animation layers, and I just like lead and drag with something. So like right here, I added an in between where I kind of lead with the chest there a little bit. And whenever, I can always go back and zero that out. So from here to here, I added another key on top of it. So I can keep adding keys on top of layers and layers, and things are going to start to look a little bit more like broken down. So here he's leading with the chest first. You see that? And that was what I had before, was this tiny little adjustment. Here, maybe I could favor that. Here, maybe I could start leading with the chest a little bit more. Zero that out. And like little things like wobbles, when he's reaching, like I know that hand will like drag a little bit there. So why don't I just drag his chest? So I try to make things a little bit more connected there. And a little bit more like wobbles will keep the animation alive. So that's one way you can break down the head, and you can just merge that layer so everything will be on ones again. Not on ones, but like everything will be baked. It was pose to pose before, but whenever I go into splines, I don't really care about those key poses anymore, or where they are. I try to break things down. So let's say when he comes down, right? Let's say I want to drag his chin up a little bit as he's coming down. So let's set a key here, a zero key here, a zero key here. Go into the middle, and what happens if I just drag that head up, right? Notice how things are moving differently now. And if it's too much, I always have this slider where I can drag left and right. If I get a note, hey, that motion there in the beginning, that's too much, I can just make it 40%, and I can be like, hey, is this better? It's kind of hard to see because it's fast. So let's set a key here. Maybe here his head can come down, like just an example. That's one way to break things down. Another way is just to put different body parts into world space and just lead and lag in the graph editor. So the chest here, you see that? Translation is unlocked on this one. Usually if you're working on a more realistic character, it will only have rotations. But since we can just squash the stretches, let's take advantage of that. I'm going to select the chest, put a knot on it. It's basically a locator that puts that object into world space. So I can make it bigger here. And now, let's say I really want to lead with the chest at here from 17 to 23, this area. Let me show you what happens if I just use this little button here, offset. If I want to lead with the chest, I'm going to drag these keys in the timeline here. So it hits first. This is like think about this as the past, right? If I drag it this way, our timeline moves in this way. So I'm going to drag it here 1 frame, see what happens there. So my whole chest will lead the action 1 frame. But let's do 2 frames so it's more visible. Notice how that part, the chest is leading the action. The squash and stretch is like crazy right now. But I don't want that. I don't want the whole thing, right? And I want something more subtle than that. So from here, 17 to, let's say, 25, I can offset a section there in a very subtle way. So let's mark 17. That's 17 right there. 25. I can only grab this section. And instead of using just 1 frame, I can offset it in a more subtle way, which is 0.1. So let's do 2 frames here. Let's see what it gives us. So that chest will pop up. I kind of like it actually. See that? You can kind of feel that like squishiness pops up suddenly. But that might be too cartoony, and you can always use this 0.1. Now when I do that, it kind of like overlaps with this one here, right? See that? There's more squash stretch there. And then here he goes into what it was doing before. But I kind of like the more cartoony look to it. So I'm going to do 1 frame. Let's just pull this one back here. And I have snap keys off, right? And let's just do 1 frame. Here he can ease into that pose. So that section, he will. If I put a locator on his hips now, you can kind of see the difference. So let's track the distance between those 2 locators. So I'm going to put a knot on this one as well. Make that bigger. So if you look at the translation around 17, look at the distance between this focal point and this focal point. You see, it's big because it's separating there. But if I go back to what it was doing before here, it's pretty close. So by offsetting that a tiny bit, I can get automatic stretch. And you can do that with different body parts. You can do that with the hands. You can offset the hands if things feel too like moving at the same speed. If they're doing the same thing, you can just offset the hands as well. So that's one way. Let's keep working on the chest actually. Let's see if we can break down something around here. Here, let's see. And now, since this is in world space as well, I can do stuff like this as well, right, in the animation layer. Maybe this can come up, right? It can come up, and then it can go down like that. Here, it can really squash. That is starting to rotate, so let's start to rotate this one as well. I want things to feel connected, right? Here, maybe it can come up earlier. Let's look at it from the front view, or here. See that? Feels a little cartoony, but whatever. Again, you can experiment with, you can grab random objects. Just, if you're not familiar with it, just try to move them around. Let's say, let's delay this 2 frames. So the hip will come back 2 frames. There will be a delay there. So just play around with it. You can start going crazy with it, and then you just pull it back whenever you need to. So there's another way to get free rotations. Let's just do that on the head, since the head doesn't have a translation, but it doesn't affect the translation on the mesh. So let's grab the head, knot on. Let's put a knot orient on it. Make that bigger. It's just a random locator, okay? And I'm gonna get some auto overlap, more drag on his head to break things down. This is another technique that I like to use, which is using aim constraints. So you can do this on the chest, you can do this on the shoulders, head, wherever you want some extra rotation. So let's select that locator. Let's open up the outliner. I'm gonna hit this little button here called aim, and it will give me 2 locators, head top, head side. Head top will be automatically selected. I'm gonna grab the head one and just drag it out there where his face is. And I'm gonna select the side one and gonna drag the side one to the side here. After that, I'm gonna click an empty space on the viewport. It's kind of hard to see, let me change the color. So this locator will affect, it's aiming at that one, right? So I can do the same thing here. I can offset this. Let's say I want the head to be, get some rotation on the head. I can offset that locator this way 1 frame, this is 2 frames, just to exaggerate it. So notice how that locator is dragging behind 2 frames, and he's always aiming at that. So it will give the illusion of he's like, his head is like overlapping. You kind of see it at the end there. Let's look at it from here. See that? Like his body's going down, that locator's staying up, so he's looking at it. But I don't like this, it's too much, so let's just do 1 frame. You can do the same thing. You can go to the graph editor, find parts where you want to lead or lag, and just move them around in the graph editor. Okay? Actually, I don't like this at all. Let's just do 0.5. So since this character is cartoony, let's move on to a different body part. Notice what I'm doing, right? I'm starting from the hips, and then I'm going up the chain. I'm going to the spine, the head, different body parts, and just separating things. All right, so let's move on to a different body part. I'm just going to grab this, just bake, and I'm just going to delete these locators. Let's make them smaller. All right. Now let's move on to the shoulders. The shoulders we can do the same thing with the shoulders. The translation is unlocked on them. Notice it's very pose to pose here in the timeline. Let's just put a knot on them. And let's find points. Let's do the same thing again. Let's drag the shoulders 2 frames back. So notice what happens to the shoulders now. When his body comes down, the shoulders will stay up, and then the shoulders will come down. Maybe I can use some motion here, right? And when he jumps up, those shoulders will lag 2 frames, and then it will catch up at the end. Really rubbery, doesn't feel good, but you get the idea. Let's bring it 2 frames back again. And I can do the same thing here, right? I can find points, or I can just offset it a little bit. So 0.1, let's just offset it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frames. So not even 1 frame, half of a frame, they will drag. Something you can't really see, but you probably feel it. Same thing goes for this. We can put a knot on this one as well, or just break these down a little bit more. So going from here, maybe I can add some overlap. See that? I can also add overlap inside the animation layer. And the way to do that is you have a 0 pose here, a 0 pose here, and you just go right in the middle where it's kind of like speeds up a lot, and you just drag it this way. So it will give the illusion of it's dragging, and then it will come up. You can overshoot it as well, and then bring it to a settle. Same thing goes for the feet. Let's turn on the stretchiness of the foot in an animation layer, of course. So he doesn't have a stretch control on those feet, but if your character has a stretch control, you can turn it on. You can do the same thing. Put a locator, and you can drag that locator so it will give the illusion of he's stretching, right? So again, you always want to get rid of that pose feel. A lot of common mistake that I see with animators is just their animation, it just feels too pose to pose. Like I can count your poses, right? I can still see your poses. But if you do this using the overlap, using the animation layers and just basic over scripts, you can get rid of that pose feel. And let's just get some auto overlap on the ears as well. So I'm going to select the ear, 1, 2, 3, select aim, click an empty space on the viewport, 1, 2, 3. And instead of using this red one, I'm just going to use this blue one here. And look at what happens at my curves here. So it will stagger the curves. So now I can get some auto overlap there. Look at those 3 locators, right? We can offset these ones as well. There you go. That's better. All right. Let's do the tail as well. So I'm going to grab the tail same way. 1, 2, all the way down the spine, down the chain this way. And then let's find a spot here. This is a good one. Just going to do an aim constraint. Drag the top ones to the back here. And let's drag these ones to here. Click an empty space. And we can do the same thing. 1, 2. See that? Got some free overlap there. And another cool button here is if you just click this button, bake, source, and delete, it will bake those locators to the original rig, and it will clean up the scene. So check that out. We're back to the original rig. And imagine trying to animate this tail pose to pose. It would take forever. Look at all those curves, which basically I got them for free. So SB Animates, you had a question on, turning this animation into a 360, right? I'll do a demo on that as well, and then we'll finish it. So you had a question of like, okay, if you get a note of, hey, we need to turn this animation into a 360 where he goes, he still jumps this way, but he does like a flip in air, I think. Right? So let me do a demo on that one as well, and then we'll finish it. So let's grab everything that is IK. I'm going to move things around. The hips is IK. Let's put a knot on that one. A locator here. The feet are IK, we know that. Let's grab these ones as well. These pole vectors are IK. Let's grab them. This arm is IK. Oh, this one is way back here. I gotta fix that first. Let's put some locators on this. And then let me just fix this arm really quick. This is way behind here, which is not good. Let's put a locator on this hand as well. So I literally grabbed everything that is IK. Let's move his chest as well. His head is in world space as well, just a rotation. So I'm going to put a knot orient on that one. All right. Let's grab all of these. And then I'm going to grab the body, which is this one. That's my last selection. And I'm going to put all of that inside of the body. So pay attention what happens to my outliner. All of those locators went into body. So now when I move this, my whole body will move like a toy. But my animation will still be there. See that? So now, I know he's going to rotate from somewhere around here. We didn't get the tail. Let's get the tail as well. Let's get the base of the tail. Let's put a knot orient on that one. And let's put it back into the body as well, inside. So now the tail should move as well. Perfect. Notice how like quick that was, right? You can start thinking about this way. You can be like, hey, what can I put inside of that body space? You can always change it and it will not break your animation. All right, so body controls the whole character. And I know I'm gonna do a 360, but if I do a 360 from this position, notice how it doesn't feel very natural because he's not rotating from his center of mass, right? So let's say let's find a good spot where his center of mass is. This doesn't feel good. I'm going to go to side view and let's just find his center of mass. So where do you think his center of mass is? It's kind of hard to. So let's ask you guys. Let's put some yellow ones too. It can be higher or lower, but like where do you think it's closer? Let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Where do you think his center of mass is? Which one, like, just give me a rough idea of where his center of mass would be in this position. The single pose. Type it into chat. I'll just pause it. All right, let's try the center of mass. I'm gonna select the not offset, and then let's go to world mode. Let's move it on top of here, right between 2 and 3. I feel like that's not it. It's close, but it's not it. So I'm going to say 3 wins. 3 looks better. Yep. So let's bake it back to the body and just get rid of those locators we created to test it out. And I'm just going to pick 3. So this moves the whole body. Select that main control, not offset. Go to world mode. Let's put it right on 3. Actually, here was better, right there. Click an empty space on the viewport. And then from this pose, the center of mass, it feels right here. Okay, yeah, that feels good. So that's how we came up with the center of mass. So good job on, let's see, Spidey, Cosmo, Phoenix, Dar. You guys kind of changed a little bit. Yeah, so good job. I was thinking 2, like right here somewhere. So from this pose, by the way, center of mass always changes, right? We're just looking at we're trying to figure out the center of mass in this pose here. But right here, let's say somewhere else, the center of mass is different here, right? I think it's higher here. It's somewhere around here, higher. It's not lower body when he's stretching. And I'm just thinking about like as a weight. There's no like real way to figure this out. There are some scripts where you can like kind of get it roughly, and that script is called, you can use this one, GE tools, where you can just select your character's bones and you can just get a rough visual representation of your center of mass using this tool. And I'll do another demo on that one. All right, so we got our new pivot point on that pose, but that locator is not very, if you look at it, if I go to gimbal mode here, you kind of see like it's kind of to the side a little bit. And I want to get a better, cleaner rotation on the body, right? So while that locator is selected, I'm going to go under double knot. We're going to click this button here, world. So it will bake another locator on top of it. So I'm going to click it. It gave me a new locator, but you see all the rotations are zeroed out. Pay attention, right? If I rotate it, it rotates very clean in one direction. So I can set a rotation X curve there, key selected, right? It's right there. And let's find the spot where we actually want to start rotating him. This is not going to look perfect. So from here to here, I'm going to set another key there. And then let's find which way we want to rotate him. Let's do, so I'm going to come here, zero this out again. So notice what happens here. I'm going to do literally a 360 here. So it's going to pop up there. See how that works. Let's start rotating him a little bit earlier. I feel like it's too fast. All right. So there's a problem here. We're getting the motion, but the timing is too fast. Let's see. Yeah, that's not working. So we're going to start rotating from here. Let's ease here. And then here you can start flipping. Let's make that hit harder there. But that is only one curve. And I got a 360 out of that. So I'm going to keep continuing the momentum forward because he's going there way too fast. So let's extend this. Let's do it 50 frames. I'm just going to treat him like a bouncing ball. The whole animation will just go down. There he hits the floor. So watch this. I'm going to go somewhere around here. Let's turn on snap keys. And let's continue his rotate X motion until frame 50. That is. Okay. 360. Let's give him a forward momentum as well here because he's slowing down in there. Keep that momentum forward. That's better. There it is. See that? Two curves, literally just one curve that I just rotated and I just got that motion. Again, I can still bake this down and then so I can get rid of that suppose fill here. The same thing we did. Let's say we want to break things down a little bit more. We can literally put a knot on these and just as he's coming down, I can just drag those hands. So I can do 1, 2, start breaking things down so that the different body parts will lag. Or I can just use animation layers here, right? Cool. All right, that was it. And I'll put this in the members section of 13 Ways to Animate Fast.